Hello and welcome to Big Friendly Grub. I hope you are well. Now, if you watched last week's video, you probably saw that I was doing a food tasting video with my good friend Stiv. Stiv was back and we did a food tasting video of British guys trying Australian foods. Now, this has absolutely nothing to do with this video because this is not a food tasting video, as you can see, because I'm standing up instead of being sat on the sofa, which is my usual food tasting video position. But while Stiv was here with his lovely Mrs. Laura, we went for food the day before at a lovely barbecue restaurant called Smokies, and they had a dessert menu, and on that dessert menu was a cheesecake. Not particularly exciting, you might think, but it was a baked cheesecake. And over here in the UK, we don't usually do baked cheesecakes. We are very much of the no-bake kind, the kind that you just make and you set in the fridge. It's a cultural thing. The US do baked cheesecakes. It's usually called the New York baked cheesecake. It's not something we really do over here for some reason. We always do the no-bake kind, but the baked kind is really, really good. Is it necessarily better than the no-bake kind? I don't know. It's difficult to say. I'd probably have to do a side-by-side taste test, which I'm not going to do today because that will involve making two cheesecakes, which I'm not doing. I'm just going to make the no-bake kind today because I do really enjoy it. There's something a bit more, I don't know, luxuriant about it. Perhaps it's because it just takes longer and it's got more levels to it. Maybe because it's the version I'm doing has got like a sour cream top as well, which gives it a real like freshness, which is strange considering it's like sour cream. But there's just something about it. It's just like, oh, it's really rich and it's really good. And I'm going to show you how to make it today. So I'm not going to muck about because this does take quite a long time, probably from start to finish. A really good baked cheesecake takes about 8 hours because you've got to bake it and then you've got to leave it to set and you've just got to have a whole buttload of patience. So I'm going to get cracking right now. I'm going to show you how to make a brilliant baked cheesecake. Let's go! I don't know why I did that so enthusiastically. Maybe it's because it's like American cheesecake and they're all really enthusiastic about stuff. Let's get going. Right, the first thing we'll need for our cheesecake is our buttery biscuit base.
I like the base. I like the buttery biscuit base.
Now there's a old meme that doesn't get referenced enough these days. What we're going to need for our buttery biscuit base is some biscuits. So here I've got 250 grams worth of good old digestives. You could use other biscuits if you like, but I'm using the tried and trusted digestives. So I'm going to put these into my food processor. There are 250 grams there, I might have just said that, but I can't remember. And I'm going to blitz those up into very fine breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs? Biscuit crumbs, whatever. They're going to be crumbs. That doesn't take long at all, not in that food processor anyway. So those are now nice fine crumbs, and I might as well do this all in the food processor. So I'm going to add in some caster sugar, there's 50 grams worth there. And I'm also going to add in our butter. So there's 150 grams of melted butter here. And I'm going to put that in. I'm going to bring that just all together. You could do this in another bowl. I'm just being lazy and trying to minimize washing up. There we go. That has come into a nice, soft, biscuity style base. And that looks really, really good. Actually, I'm going to take these horribly sharp blades out because look at those. Those are lethal. You can have a thumb off or even worse with those. So you've got a lovely breadcrumby kind of texture there and it smells amazing because of that melted butter. And this can go into our cheesecake tin, or a cake tin in my case. So I've just lined the base of a about 20 centimetre cake tin here, and this will do absolutely nicely. And I'm just going to add in these biscuit crumbs. Then what I'm going to do is just use a glass to kind of press all this down, compact it down, and you want to get kind of a like crust. So try and get some of them up the sides because you want a bit of a, like a pie crust almost around the edge. See, I've got a bit of a nice edge around there. And before this goes into the oven, I'm just going to pop this into the freezer for about 20 minutes just to firm up a bit before we bake it. So I'm going to be preheating the oven to 180 degrees C in the meantime. Right, while our base is chilling like a villain, we can be getting on with our actual filling, and that all rhymes and I didn't mean it to. But this is definitely not a vegan cheesecake because we've actually got 4 different kinds of dairy in this. So starting off with the first, we are going to add in some double cream to a large bowl. There's about 250 mils there, and I am just going to whisk it up until it's not stiff, but it's like definitely firmer than it was. There we go, I think that's about right. It's not like stiff peaks or anything, but it's definitely more malleable than it was. Now obviously this is a cheesecake, so we need cream cheese. So I am adding in about 500 grams worth of full fat cream cheese. Don't use the half fat stuff or the light stuff because it just won't work quite as well. You need that fat in there. It's not a healthy dessert by any means. What kind of cheese do you use to hide a horse? Mascarpone! Hey! Cheese jokes. So I'm not just sticking with cream cheese in this, I'm going to use mascarpone as well. That's to give it some real nice like depth of flavour and just mix things up a bit. I love using mascarpone in cheesecakes. It's just, it just really adds to it. It's just amazing. I'm going to add in a whole 250 gram pot of this mascarpone. If you've not had mascarpone before, it's like a more thicker, richer, luxuriant cream cheese. It is amazing, but use it very sparingly. He says, adding a whole tub in. And right, I'm going to get this all combined together. There we go, look at that. That is all combined. That already looks absolutely delicious. Oh, look how thick and creamy that is. Oh. But we are not done. So we're going to need to add in 200 grams worth of caster sugar, because right now this is just cheese. Then we're going to need 4 eggs. He's going to try and crack these with one hand. This is what's going to allow us to bake our cheesecake. The eagle-eyed viewers of you might notice I got some shell in there, but don't worry, I took it out. Then we're going to also want to grate in a zest of a lemon to give it some real nice freshness amongst all that richness. Then lastly, we need a good couple of teaspoons worth of vanilla extract, because that gives us our lovely vanilla-y flavour, obviously. Finally, mix that all together. That is all now combined and ready to go into our biscuity base. Speaking of which, that has now had enough time in the freezer to chill and firm up some, so this can now go into the oven at 180 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes to bake. Right, our cheesecake base has had about 10 minutes in the oven, and I am going to pull this out carefully without burning myself. And that is smelling amazing. And what we just need to do is, while it's out and still relatively malleable, we're just going to do the same process as we did before to kind of get that crust back, because some of this has puffed up because of the butter and we've kind of lost a little bit of our shape, not a lot. We want to get that to be a nice thin but firm base. And I'm going to center that on the camera a bit more and give it a good couple of minutes to cool down before we put in our filling. But before I do that, I'm just going to turn down the oven to 150 degrees, because that's what we need to bake our cheesecake at. Right, our base has had about a good 5 minutes or so to cool down, and it has firmed up again. So we can now get our filling poured into this. And that will just pour in very, very nicely. I'm going to do that just to the top of our base, maybe just a little bit over, because I don't want to do it too high. Then I'm going to gently place this into the oven at 150 degrees C for about 45 minutes.
We interrupt this video to give you a special announcement. I'm an idiot. Not that that's news or anything, but for this next section of the video I actually forgot to turn the microphone on. So I've had to switch to a voiceover style, which shouldn't affect your enjoyment of the video, at least I hope not, and also it definitely won't affect the recipe at all. It just might be a bit of a continuity shift. So apologies for that, but let's carry on as normal, which is basically me being an idiot. Soz.
Right, it's been 45 minutes and our cheesecake can come out of the oven. You can see it's still got a bit of a wobble on it, which is what we want, and it's ever so slightly puffed up and golden brown. We need to leave this to cool slightly for about 10 minutes or so. So in the meantime, we can be making the glaze to go on top of it. Now, the observant among you may remember that I said this has 4 different types of dairy in it. We've got our cream cheese, our mascarpone cheese, our double cream, and we're now using sour cream for our glaze on the top. So of around 300 mils of sour cream, which is basically a whole tub here in the UK. And we just need to add in a tablespoon of caster sugar and also a tablespoon of vanilla extract. Once our cheesecake has cooled, it can then get this poured all over the top. Right, our cheesecake has had 10 minutes to cool slightly, and it's lowered down, some of the air's come out of it and it's not as puffed up and golden, but it's still got that wobble on it, which is great and what we want. It looks great already, and you could leave it like this if you want to, but we're going to add our sour cream glaze over the top of it, which will give it a lovely tang and a really lovely glossy top. So let's get that poured all over the top ever so gently and spread it out with our spatula and make it nice and even. That looks really lovely and glossy already, but we need to get this into the oven for another 10 minutes, so in it goes. Right, our cheesecake has had another 10 minutes in the oven, so out it comes again. Now look at that, that is absolutely lovely and glossy, and it's still got that little bit of a wobble on it that we want. Now the cheesecake is pretty much done, but unfortunately now it's just an exercise in restraint, as we've got to leave it to cool down to room temperature for around an hour before putting it into the fridge to then set for completely for about another 4 to 5 hours. So now all you can really do is wait and find something else to occupy your time until you can give it a try. Maybe try taking up a new hobby. Is rollerblading still cool? Was it ever cool? Right, first things first, I had my microphone on because that's important. Oh god, I can't believe I shot like 3 or 4 segments without the microphone on. But we work around it. We do silly things, or I do silly things. The cheesecake has now set. You can see that has set really well. I'm just hoping it comes out the tin now. This is always the terrifying part. Please, yay, yes. I don't know why I sounded so surprised that it came out, but yeah, after the microphone thing I thought, oh well, that's how this video is going to go then. But it worked, and that is a baked cheesecake, and it's got our lovely sour cream top on it. And I would tilt it up and show it to you. Hold on, let's bring this down here. You should be able to see a few different layers. So you've got our biscuit there, you've got the cheesecake underneath, and then you've got our sour cream top. And it looks pretty good. All I'm going to need to do is get a slice out of that. That's looking pretty banging. Hopefully it will taste pretty banging as well. And hopefully I'll stop saying banging. I can't wait to get stuck into this. I have been waiting all day. Right, let's try and get into the middle here. Oh, try and get through that base, that buttery biscuit base. The inside of that looks pretty good. And here is our beautiful slice of baked cheesecake. There's nothing else left to do but get this in my face. There we go. There is our baked cheesecake, our New York cheesecake, our New York baked cheesecake, our New York style baked cheesecake. Whatever you want to call it, that is it. It just looks great. It does. It does. Don't know why I went so high there. It is a beautiful cheesecake. Well, I'm saying this, I haven't tried it yet, but I'm fairly confident it's a beautiful cheesecake. It certainly looks beautiful. It takes a while, it really does. But underneath all that time, it's not that complicated. It's just waiting. You're waiting for it to cook, waiting for it to set. Speaking of time, I'm talking for too long because I really want to give this a try. So let's dig in. Oh yes, got a bit of base, got a bit of cheesecake, and some of that sour cream topping as well. Oh, that is so creamy and delicate and amazing. And oh, a few words to describe that. There's a few things better than a really good cheesecake, and that is a really good cheesecake. It's really great. I mean, it's one of the best desserts out there for a reason. So I'm going to stop talking because I want to go and enjoy this. And maybe this will inspire you to go out and instead of doing like a normal no-bake cheesecake, give this a try and see whether it's any different. I think it just lifts it that extra bit. Whether you go for a normal cheesecake or a baked cheesecake, it's still cheesecake, it's still good. And this is fantastic. So off I go to enjoy this. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, like it. If you enjoy what I'm doing with the channel, subscribe, you know the deal. And I will see you on the very next Big Friendly Grub. Bye.